Getting the right transfers, the right moves can make or break a footballer's career. As talented and consistent as you might be, if you don't conquer Europe while playing for an all-time great club, you're bound to get some people doubting your status as an all-time great. And that's what made me want to make this video. Today, I'm gonna tell you about Edinson Cavani, in my opinion, one of the most underrated players of the last decade. I wanna show you all he has done, and by the end of the video, I would like to hear your opinion in the comments for whether he is worthy of being put among names like Ibrahimovic, Lewandowski and Suarez as a contender for the title of best striker of the last decade. Also, before we get into it, if you could take 1 second to press the like button, it would truly make my day. So, Edinson Gomez would be born on Valentine's Day in the city of Salto in Uruguay, coincidentally the same city Luis Suarez was born in. Oddly enough, his actual last name is Gomes, taking it from his mother's side rather than his father's surname Cavani, for which he became known by. Growing up in Salto with 2 older brothers, Cavani ended up following the usual youngest sibling routine of fleeing to the streets to play football with much older kids. These times roughed them up, made his on-field mentality much stronger, and the tight streets of Salto forced him into developing his technique from early on. So at 13 years of age, he finally joined the youth team, Danubio FC. This was a big deal. Getting in wasn't easy and shining through the competition was even harder. This academy was the best in Montevideo, producing talents like Álvaro Recoba and Diego Forlán. But Cavani was up to the challenge, and after 5 years of grinding and taking step after step towards the top, he reached the first team. From his first year as a pro, it became clear he was exceptional. He would score 12 goals and be of great help in Danubio's successful pursuit for the 2006 Apertura tournament. And so, by the end of the season, he got a chance to play the Under-20 Sudamericano with the Uruguayan national team. I would guess that the first match defeat to Venezuela set him off because from there on, he would play 6 matches against the likes of Brazil, Argentina and Colombia, and he would score in each and every one. At that point, it seemed Uruguay was set to win the tournament, but a defeat on injury time to Argentina in the final match day sent him down to 3rd place. Regardless, Cavani easily topped the goal-scoring charts, and the world had been warned of the sort of attacking power brewing up in Uruguay. The offers started coming in. Despite Juventus calling, despite AC Milan calling, Cavani decided to play it safe and go for a calmer introduction into European football and joined Palermo for 4.5 million euros. It's now easy to disregard Palermo as a small club, considering they have now dropped into the 3rd tier of Italian football, but back then, they were impressive. They had just finished 5th in the league and had players like Sirigu and Barzagli, so it wouldn't be as easy as one might imagine for Cavani to break into the starting 11, being used as a bench player for the first season and a half, taking over the spot of main striker as Amauri left for Juventus in 2008. This would also be the year in which Cavani would get his debut for Uruguay. It would come against Colombia, and he would show how incredible his partnership with Suarez could be, as they brought Uruguay back from a 2-goal disadvantage in just 8 minutes with a goal each, really setting a precedent for what was to come. Over the last few years, Palermo fans, though happy with their squad's revival, felt a bit saddened by the loss of Luca Toni. The Italian striker had joined from Brescia in 2003 and instantly helped them get promoted back to the top tier with 30 league goals, breaking their top tier goal-scoring record with a total of 21 and getting them qualified to the UEFA Cup. They were big boots to fill, and Amauri had managed to soften the hit of this loss. But once he was gone, there was a fear that whoever followed would fail to meet this standard, but it just wasn't the case. Despite being only 20 years old, Cavani netted 14 league goals in his first season as a starter, helping Palermo to an 8th place finish. The next season, it would only get better, as Cavani would pull similar numbers and would, with the help of his squad, be just 2 points short of qualifying Palermo to the Champions League. This massive achievement would once again get Cavani a lot of attention, and eventually, a deal worth 17 million euros would be achieved between Napoli and Palermo, making him the club's record signing. Before moving, he would play his first international tournament with Uruguay, the 2010 World Cup. This might have seemed like a great opportunity to shine, but with Forlan and Suarez hogging the spotlight for most of the tournament, Cavani would barely even have time to shine despite their impressive 4th place finish. Back at club level, his move would set his goal scoring ablaze. In his first 3 starts for Napoli, he would score 4 times, including 2 goals on his first start as Napoli needed a win to qualify for the Europa League. If this had elevated the fans' hopes for their star signing, it would only get better. Cavani would end the season with 26 league goals and 4 hat-tricks across all competitions, including 2 against Juventus and Lazio, which would be massive help towards Napoli's impressive 3rd place finish that would lead them to play Champions League football for the first time since Diego Armando Maradona was at the club. And you know how it is, whenever you hear that name, it means something great has been achieved. Once the season was over, it was time to play the Copa America, following Forlan's performances in the previous World Cup, as well as Suarez's start at Liverpool and Cavani's top form with Napoli. Many were hopeful the trio would bring it home. Suarez and Cavani would be deployed on the flanks to accommodate for Forlan, who would often drop deep, fitting into a number 10 role that would allow the other two to partner up in the middle as expected. Unfortunately, Cavani would get injured in the group stage, though he would find a silver lining as he would be able to come back in time for the final, where they would defeat Paraguay and win the trophy for the first time since 1995. He would start the next season with a hat-trick against AC Milan and an opener against Manchester City, as he would go on to get the same 33 goals in all competitions as he had managed in his first season. Even though this time around Napoli would not manage to qualify to the Champions League, they would win the Coppa Italia with Cavani opening the scoresheet in the final against Juventus. This would be their first trophy in 25 years. The fans were ecstatic. Cavani was officially a club legend. They would also do pretty well in the Champions League, only going out in extra time to eventual winners Chelsea. The next season would be his final one with the club, and he would take things to a whole new level. By February, he had played 26 matches and only failed to score in 7, totaling 27 goals already, as he kept showing he was a big game player, with a hat-trick against Lazio and another one against Roma, as Napoli were just 3 points away from first place. For the next month, Cavani went through a dry streak that would show just how dependent Napoli were on him. Only 6 league matches without him scoring would lead Napoli to fall down to 11 points off first place, which would ultimately cost them the league, even as Cavani came back to finishing off the year with 11 goals in 9 games, including a hat-trick against Inter. It's honestly a shame that he didn't win it. A Serie A would have been Cavani's greatest achievement at this point, but where he was going, league titles would come much easier. Seeing how incredible he was for Napoli, PSG were in the early years of their squad rebuild paid 64 million euros for the Uruguayan striker, a fee that would make him the 6th most expensive player in history. This sort of investment could make it seem like he was gonna be their star player, but it wasn't the case. For the first 3 years of his time in Paris, Cavani would be played in the wing, first in the right and later on the left, but always in favor of Ibrahimovic, who demanded to play up front. These years were a waste, in my opinion. Cavani ended up scoring far less despite playing for a stronger team who was part of an easier league. Still, he managed to pull 81 goals in 147 matches, as well as 10 domestic titles, which helped offset the lack of them during his time at Napoli. But then the fun started. Ibra left for Manchester United and Cavani, despite being now 29 years old, got center stage and he absolutely popped off, getting 41 goals in 42 matches at the domestic level, easily earning himself the league's top scorer award as well as the Player of the Year award, though somehow PSG finally failed to win the league with Leonardo Jardin's Monaco, with Falcao, Mbappe and Bernardo Silva managing to outdo them. In the Champions League, it would be equally impressive, if not more, getting 8 goals in 8 matches, finishing next to Ronaldo and Messi in the top scorers podium, despite going out as early as the last 16 round, where he scored in both legs but was still unable to stop Barcelona from famously coming back from a first leg 4-0 defeat. The transfer market that followed could have gone either way for Cavani. PSG spent closely to 400 million euros, getting both Mbappe and Neymar, which left many wondering if Cavani would fit in with them and form an impressive trio, or if you would once again see Cavani struggle with sharing the stage. Well, we got sort of a middle term. Cavani kept an incredible goal-scoring form. In fact, in the 19 matches following the first match day of the season, Cavani scored 23 goals, which is absurd, especially considering this streak included 7 braces. But on the other hand, we did end up seeing Cavani and Neymar clashing, either because they both thought they were the superior dead ball specialists, or just because of their strong personalities. When it comes to PSG and their objectives, well, they did win the league, but despite Cavani scoring 6 goals in 6 group stage matches in the Champions League, they would draw Real Madrid in the last 16, and with Ronaldo scoring 3 across 2 legs, they were swiftly knocked out before they could even make much of an impression. It seemed no matter what they did, no matter how much money they spent, they could barely make an impression through their Champions League assaults. Over summer, we got to witness Cavani's best performance at a World Cup, scoring 2 goals against Portugal as Uruguay eventually went out in the quarter-finals to eventual champions France. This tournament also came after a period in which Cavani was tasked with qualifying Uruguay to this competition without the help of Suarez, who was out several times due to injury or suspension. Cavani pulled through, scoring 10 goals which made him the top scorer of the qualifying rounds, an absolutely incredible performance when his national team most needed him. The following season, he would get injured 6 different times, missing out on 16 matches, making it obvious to some that at 32 years of age, he was perhaps too old to be relied on. Still, through all of this, he managed 23 goals in 33 matches and another league title. At this point, he was clearly being seen as a bench player. I would have expected him to leave, but he stayed for one more season where injuries kept coming and he was seriously put to the side, only playing a bit over 1,000 minutes over the entire year. And so, we arrived at the present season, where Cavani joined Manchester United on a free transfer, taking over the number 7 shirt. Some say it's been cursed ever since Ronaldo left. No matter how big the name of the player who tried putting it on ever since, they have failed to achieve what was expected of them. And at first, it seemed like Cavani would struggle as well. After 28 matches in Manchester, Cavani had as many goals scored as injuries. Ironically, 7 each. But over the last month, something seems to have changed. Many have been coming forward claiming the curse has been broken. Cavani has been pairing up with Bruno Fernandes and producing incredible results, getting 10 goals and assists over his last 7 matches. Most importantly, getting 4 goals and 2 assists against Roma to help Manchester United get to the final of the Europa League. Which reminds most football fans of how a 30-something Ibrahimovic also arrived from Paris to lead them to the same trophy. Hopefully, unlike the Swede, Cavani gets to play in the final. It's been one hell of a decade for Cavani. He lived an interesting career, though often not for the best reasons. He is an incredibly interesting player. His unique slender frame helps him distinguish himself from other strikers of his generation. He's a great blend of quick and strong. Even though he has been criticized for missing chances, he can be extremely opportunistic. Impressively, he manages to pair all of this with an incredible work rate and a substantial amount of defensive work. I always got the feeling that if Cavani got to play in the same position as a player like Cristiano Ronaldo or Lewandowski, getting to be the main man in a great squad for more than one season at a time, it would have blossomed into something special, something unforgettable, though so far that opportunity hasn't arrived, and now it is perhaps too late for it. Still, in my book, Cavani is a player of the same level of talent as many of the best strikers of the last decade. He is a legend. He is a player worth remembering for generations to come. He is El Matador. So, yep, this was Cavani's career in a video. I hope you enjoyed. Kind of a special video, you know, it is. They're kind of becoming not so special anymore. Now I'm kind of getting used to sometimes making videos about current players. It's actually pretty interesting. The Don't know why I didn't do this earlier. I find it kind of refreshing sometimes. I don't know. Well, tell me what you think about it in the comments. I actually would like to hear it from you. But yeah, this was Cavani's career in a video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And yeah, see you next week. Bye.